Good morning, and welcome to Sunday Reset. My name is Terry Condren. I'm the Shifu and instructor at the Arkansas Yoga Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we're here at the Momentary, and I want to teach you a little bit today about Tai Chi Chuan. Tai Chi is a wonderful meditative martial art that gives you the opportunity to experience both health, balance, as well as meditative skills to calm your spirit, and it's also a martial art, so there's a certain amount of physicality to it that gives you some physical training. So hopefully today I'm going to show you a little bit about how you too can learn a little bit of Tai Chi, maybe find a Tai Chi master or a Shifu in your area and train with that person and learn Tai Chi for yourself. Join me. I think you're going to enjoy this. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to have you do is find a nice comfortable spot, and we stand in what's called Wu Chi. Wu Chi is a position Wu Chi means emptiness, complete, utter emptiness. And the idea is you take a moment and you just kind of stand as you normally were. Most people kind of stand with their feet kind of flayed out a little bit. And you stand erect, calm your spirit, calm your eyes, and take a moment to breathe. And here's the hard part, still your mind. Now the Chinese talk about the mind a lot. And one of the things they talk about is nian, which is kind of a funny term. Nian is the part of mind I call the committee. You know, it's the chattering voices that you hear, you know, that's talking about, oh, look at what she's wearing. Oh, it's too hot, it's too cold. Well, I wonder what that was. You know, it's all of that chattering that kind of goes off in the back of your mind. And so one of the things you want to learn when you're doing Wu Chi, when you're beginning Wu Chi, is to learn, ideally, to turn that off. It's very hard to turn off the committee. But what I want you to do is to think about, if you had a volume control, that you just be turning the volume down a bit and make that committee sound kind of go away. So take a moment and just stand and breathe. And empty your mind of all of that chatter. I know it's hard with me talking, but that's something you can take as you go forward. Okay, so from here, we're going to go from Wu Chi to Tai Chi. Now let me talk a little bit about what Tai Chi is. Tai Chi literally means the supreme, Tai Chi Chuan is the supreme ultimate fist, fighting style. So the idea of the supreme ultimate is bringing in the Taoist concepts of yin and yang. And basically what that means is that there are polar opposites in everything. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find initially in Wu Chi this emptiness, and as soon as we move from the emptiness into any sort of movement, we are beginning to go from, for example, a solid double-weighted stance to a stance that has weight on one foot and no weight on the other. So then we can move to the other foot. So we're going from weighted, unweighted, to weighted, partially weighted, for example. So this is kind of how this all begins. So now let me tell you a little bit about stances. So Wu Chi is this simple stance. We also have something called a horse stance, or a horse and rider stance. Classically, it would look more like this, and it's as if I were riding a horse, like the horse would be in between my knees, in between my legs. Tai Chi is much more of a walking martial art, a walking form of Wushu. Wushu is the Chinese term for martial art. So it's going to be it would be a really narrow horse. So we're going to have our knees and our feet about shoulder width, a little bit wider than your hips, shoulder width. And so you have a nice even stance that's double weighted. Additionally, we have a stance called a bow stance or a bow and arrow stance. And that's where I'm going to put, in this case, my left foot straight ahead, and my right foot is going to be behind me at a 45-degree angle. So I've got one angle that's orthogonal, if you'd like, and this is diagonal. So straight ahead, 45 degrees. 70% of my weight is on this foot, 30% of my weight is on this. So this is just a formal left forward bow stance. The opposite of this is a reverse bow stance, and that's where I'm going to have 70% of my weight on this foot, 30% of my weight here, and all I've done is I've moved back, but I've made sure that my weight is solidly over this knee and over this toe, and there's this solid axis line that's here. So I go from a forward bow to a reverse bow. Forward, reverse, and of course we can do it on the other side. Forward, reverse, forward. Bow stance. Simple stances, martial arts stances. We also have something called a sitting bow, which is basically where I've come back onto this rear foot, but rather than turning to the corner, I'm facing straight ahead. Now, all these things are a little foreign to you right now, probably, but as you'll see as we start to do Tai Chi form, you'll start to see these things kind of show up. So let's do a little. Tai Chi started, like I said, around the 12th century, and it was taken in by different families. It traditionally went to the Qin family first. Qin is kind of a common name in China. It's kind of like Jones. And then it was adopted by one of Qin's students whose name happened to be Yang. And so there's a Qin style and a Yang style. And from the Yang style, there was another family named Sun. And so there's a Sun style because it was done by the Sun family. And these are all kind of different approaches to the same thing, so that they were trying to accomplish a certain goal. For example, Qin style is pretty martial. You see a lot of the fighting in that, a lot of that kind of really dominant, strong Yang movement. And then Yang style is a little more ornate and has more yin in it. Sun style, for example, is called a walking style, and it is very high, and it was really developed for the elderly because it's not as, you don't go as deep and it's not as athletic, if you will. So lots of different things you'll start to hear. Well, what style is that? What style is this? So today I'm going to be showing you Yang style, which is kind of in the middle. It's kind of pretty. I like it. I teach it a lot. Okay, so from Wu Chi, we're going to go from Wu Chi to Tai Chi by initially shifting the weight onto the right foot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this right foot so I can step with the left, and I'm going to make my left toes point straight ahead toward you. And then I'm going to shift over to my left side, and I'm going to make my right toes point straight to you. And then I'm going to settle into this, and I'm into now a horse stance, as we were talking about earlier. Once again, my knees are over my toes. You want to make sure the knees don't drop in. You want your knees over your toes, and you kind of have this rounded crotch area. Additionally, and I'll show you a side view, what you want to do is once you get into this, you're going to take your derriere and you're going to do a little bit of a pelvic tilt so it makes a very flat back. And once you do this, probably your body's going to go, oh, this was a great idea. This feels pretty good, because you can indeed stand in this type of horse stance for a very long time. I'll tell you a short story. I had students a few years ago, and it was a couple, and they came to me and they said, we're librarians, and we always have such a problem because periodically we have to work in the book check-in area. And, and we start and we're standing there and we're taking in books and putting them on the shelves and doing whatever. And by the end of the day, we're just leaning on oh God, I'm so tired. And it was wearing them out from having to stand for so long. And I said, well, let me challenge you. Let me have you try something. Why don't you try standing in a horse stance? And basically all I want you to do is to bend the knees a bit, keep your feet about shoulder width apart, and tuck in your derriere. Kind of bring your back so that it's nice and flat. So as you're taking the books in, and you can still step and move around, but whenever you come back to where you're taking them in, make sure you assume this posture. Well, they came back the next week and they said, it's a miracle. We could stand all day long and we weren't, in pain and so tired we couldn't function anymore. I said, well, it's not really a miracle. It's just we're getting your structure in the proper line. So we've made it so that you're actually truly supporting all of this. One of the other things that they had to do is that they had to start supporting their structure with their muscles in their legs rather their bones in their legs. When you lock your knees, you're trying to have your bones support you. It throws your derriere out, and it causes this kind of structural imbalance. So by bringing the knees to be just a little bit bent and bringing in the derriere to have a flat back, it makes such a structural change. It enables you to bring your weight forward. And one of the things we're doing is that we're bringing our weight off of our heels onto the ball of the foot. Let me talk a little bit about the ball of the foot. Right behind that ball is a place the Chinese call the Yangchuan, and it literally means bubbling well. This is a meridian point. For those of you who study yoga or are familiar with yoga, the meridians are similar to the chakras that you would have in yoga. This is how the Chinese, and in Chinese medicine, they're looking at the different pathways of blood flow, nerve flow, and it's basically what they term the flow of qi, how the qi flows through the body. So these are important points. These meridian points are ways that they're able to integrate into the environment. So what you want to do is you want to stand on the bubbling well point, which really puts you in contact and improves your balance, because you can try this now. If you're standing, I'll give you this side view again. If you're standing here and if you bring your weight to your heels, there's a point where you're falling backwards. And if you bring your weight too far into your toes, there's a point where you're falling forwards. But if you can be right behind the ball of the foot, you can see, okay, this is a great balance point. Frankly, this is what coaches and trainers of athletes are teaching them many times. You can see that the guys who are great soccer players, for example, have learned to move so that they are in a good balance point off of the ball of the foot before they kick the ball. So it's a great training. When you see really great athletes, I almost guarantee you they've learned how to move properly onto their foot. Okay, so we've gone from Wu Qi, turning the volume down, to the beginnings of Tai Chi, and we're simply in this stance. The next thing I want you to do is make sure that you're bringing your chin back so that your ears are over your shoulders. I always had problems with teenagers. I had teenagers with teenagers that were kind of dropping this and stooping over. This is what will align the spine, and what it does is in Tai Chi we talk about it being the string of pearls that is keeping the spine in line to, once again, improve this chi flow. And what it's doing is it's making so your entire structure is now ready for action. So once we're here and we're in this position, we've tucked all this in, what I want you to do is now breathe. You're going to take a breath in, and you're going to initially breathe from most people kind of breathe from their upper chest, and then we're going to engage the intercostal muscles that are on the sides in between the ribs, and it will expand the chest as you do this, and then you're going to open the diaphragm. And when you do this, it makes your elbows kind of pop out. You can probably see this now as I begin to breathe and inhale. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do what's called opening. Opening is a really simple move. This is where the hands are simply going to float up like this, and then we're going to bring the elbows out, which will bring the hands back toward me, and then they're going to come down in front. Okay, so this is just the physical move. Nothing else in my structure has really changed other than the hands float up, they come back, and then they go down. Okay, now let's add breath to it. This is the challenge. So we're going to let the hands float up, and I'm going to breathe in. And they're going to come back to me, and then they're going to float down. And again, let them float up. Nice and gentle. Now, some people ask, when you're dealing with a martial art like Tai Chi, why is it so slow? Why are you doing these things so slow? Well, frankly, it's at breath speed. I always tell my students, if you were a Chihuahua, you had a really fast breath, there's no telling how fast your Tai Chi would be. But because in order to take a nice deep breath, it takes that much time, that's how long it takes to do that particular move. So this is opening. To give you an idea of the martial side of this, this is where if someone were coming grabbing my collar or grabbing me by the throat, I'm literally coming up underneath their arms, coming over their shoulders, and then sending them to the floor. So this is a break of a chokehold. But you don't need to concentrate on that part of it because there's so many other beautiful things you can deal with. So let's talk about the next move. The next move is getting into something called ward off left, and because there's also a ward off right. Initially, we're going to have to move over to my left side to come up underneath the opponent's arm. Now, here's something for you to think about. If someone were to say, Terry, I want you to go in that direction, what's the first thing you do? Do you do one of these things where you kind of lean into it and follow that way? Or is the first thing you do, you go, I'll go onto my right foot so I can now step with my left, and now I'm ready to go. Isn't that what you usually do? That's what I usually do. So we're kind of doing the same thing here. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to reach out to my left side so I can step to the right, and I'm going to literally step to the diagonal, and I'm going to turn and come onto my right foot. And because my right toes and my right knee are pointing to the diagonal, I'm going to come to this diagonal side. And literally it looks like I'm kind of holding a big beach ball. So I'm going to bring my weight into this foot, and then I'm going to step with my left in front of me, and then shift my weight to the left and bring my arm up, kind of like I'm throwing a frisbee. So I'm coming here and I'm doing ward off left. Okay, so let's try that again. So if I'm simply here in a horse stance, once again, shoulder width, all I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out, and it's like I see somebody I know, I go, hi, it's good to see you. All my weight is now on my left foot, so I can step with my right to the diagonal, and I'm going to come across and hold the beach ball and face this right quadrant, this right corner. With my weight on this foot, I can now completely go onto this foot, step, and throw the frisbee. And I'm in ward off left. Okay? Okay, let's talk about breathing just for a sec. Because all of it, once we start getting into the breath side of it, we can start to touch on the meditative side of what we're doing. So if I'm here, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out, and anytime that we're doing something that's going out from us, primarily we're going to be breathing out. I always say it's like if you were going to throw a punch, for example, you wouldn't go and breathe in, you're going to go and when you punch, your punch is going to be with an out breath. Same thing if you had a bow and arrow. You were going to shoot the bow, you wouldn't go like that, you're going to go right? So it's a common theme that most people are going to want to expel the breath as they do this kind of outward motion. So what we're going to do here, we're going to breathe in as I'm gathering up, exhale, and then breathe in as I step, and then exhale as I come across, and then breathe in as I step, and then exhale as I throw the frisbee. That's kind of how this is going to work all the way through the form. So we're going to have this system of breath and movement that's working in this fashion. And here's a little secret, a little clue. Every time I set the foot to do a weight shift, what I call taking the step, when I'm here and I set this foot, I'm inhaling. I'm exhaling when I come onto the foot. When I'm setting the foot for the next step, I'm going to go, and then I'm going to go as I go into the foot, kind of the way that works. Okay, so far so good. Hopefully you're following on this. This is kind of coming at you in warp speed, and I'm giving you a lot of Tai Chi really quickly for my beginning class. So we're going to go inhale, and then bring this in, exhale. And we're going to reach in. I'm going to gather up some air. And then as I come across, I'm going to inhale, exhale as I come across. I'm going to inhale as I step, and exhale into ward off left. So far, so good. Hopefully you're following well. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do what's called ward off right. And I'm simply going to round what looks like a ball here and come in front of me, and then step over to my right, and then present the ball over on my right side. So once again, let's show that again. So if I'm in this left position, by the way, all that's happened here is that when I was holding this ball, this hand just elevated from the top floor to the bottom floor as I threw the Frisbee. So now I'm going to come around the ball, hold what I call the soccer ball, set my right foot, and then push over to the right side for ward off right. And then from here, I'm going to go into what I call scratch the skeeter bite. This is my own term. This is a kind of a functional thing. We live in Arkansas, so we see a lot of mosquitoes. It's not unusual. And if you got a mosquito bite right here on the inside of your arm, how would you scratch that? You're probably not going to do one of these things. You're going to take your fingers and scratch it right here. So if I wanted to scratch the skeeter bite, I'm literally going to put my left fingertips toward my inside elbow, and I'm reaching out. Literally what I'm doing from a martial standpoint is I'm coming up underneath the opponent's arm, and I'm going to be gaining a capture of him underneath the arm, and with this hand I can grab wrist. The next move here is I'm going to turn my hands over, which will cause this kind of a shape in him. I'm going to turn the hands over, and then this is called stroke the bird's tail. And it comes down like this. So once again, if I'm from ward off right, I'm going to reach out to scratch the skeeter bite. I'm going to turn the hands and stroke the bird's tail. Now there's a few other things that are going on here. When I'm coming into this from ward off right, I'm in this 70-30 position, 70% on my right foot, 30% on my left, and I'm holding this ball. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put actually a little more pressure and weight into the ball of my right foot. So this is going to be about an 80-20 maybe. So I'm going a little bit more into this foot, which also enables me to reset this foot from being pointed to the diagonal to make it point toward straight ahead. So now when I stroke the bird's tail, I can easily once again face straight ahead. Hopefully that's clear. So once again, scratch the skeeter bite. You can see I'm going more into my right foot, setting the left as I turn the hands, stroke the bird's tail. Okay. Next move, I'm going to put my left fingertips on my right wrist, and I'm going to send this out and turn back toward this 3 o'clock position. If this is 12, this would be 3. Toward the 3 o'clock position. Kind of form a butterfly, sit back, and now my weight is in my left foot, so I can push up and out, and this is called push. So let me try all that again. So ward off right, scratch the skeeter bite, turn the hands, stroke the bird's tail, fingertips on the wrist, press and turn, form a butterfly, sit back, and push. Good. And then from here, this is really the complicated part, we're going to turn and sweep across in front of me. Now, I always think this is a lot like when I was, 4 or 5 years old in nursery school. They would bring out occasionally the finger paints. I love the finger paints. And it was interesting to me that, there were some children that the finger paints would come out and they would be doing little delicate things with their fingertips like this. But of course, I was more the guy that I put my entire hands in them and I would smear all across the wall. That was my idea of fun with finger paints. So we're sweeping across like we're in kindergarten, putting our finger paints all on the wall. And now we're going to form a beak in front of us and we're going to gather up, and this is a protective move. This is a very defensive move that we have here, but all my weight is on this axis. And I'm simply going to step to 9 o'clock and turn, and this is called single whip. So it's this is a whipping motion that comes out, and literally it's coming from your core and then coming out the hand. Let me talk about that for a moment. So all of the movement that we're really doing is coming from this part of our body. I always come and I talk to people that the Chinese call this the dantian, and I explain to people about the dantian. To find your dantian, you'll take your thumb and you'll put it in your navel and just let your hand rest on your abdomen. And the dantian is where that first knuckle is. So it's going to be an inch or two below your navel, depending upon how big a fellow you are, or girl. So it's right here. This is the center of your body. It's equal distant from here to the floor, from here to the top of your head. And frankly, your dantian is equal distant this way. It's right in the middle. And so what you have to learn to do is you have to learn to move from the dantian. So when all these things that we're doing, whether we're doing this ward off left or we're doing stroke the bird's tail, it's all this movement is coming from this core region, rather than thinking of ourselves as being here. One of the things I've done before in my classes, I've said, okay, I want all of you to point to me. And I say, I know it's not rude to point, but it's okay. Everybody point to me, and they'll all point to me. And I said, now I want you to point to you. Almost all of them will point here. And it's because as Westerners, we tend to think of ourselves around our heart region. Interestingly enough, I've done this with people from Europe, in Brits. They'll tend to point here. Many of them will point here, like this is where I am. But to the Chinese, this is where they am. This is their center, and they understand movement from their center. In the Chinese classics, it says that literally your qi energy comes up through the feet, through the legs, and it is directed by the waist and then manifested in the fingers. So all of this energy is going to come up your body, come through this, and to me, it's almost like silly putty. You get the silly putty and you kind of, remember when you were a kid, you would squeeze it and kind of squeeze out through your fingers? This is kind of like what this qi energy does. It comes into your dantian, and then as you're here and you squeeze it, it's going to squeeze out and come out your hands, come out your fingertips. Now, as you start doing Tai Chi, you're going to start sensing some of this qi movement. Qi is literally, it's breath, but it's much more than breath. It's more like life force. And so when you feel this life force coming to you, it'll start to affect you. It'll affect the way your mind works. It'll affect the way you start to perceive the world around you. One of the things that will happen is something called Shao Yi. Shao Yi in literally means to embrace the one. And so in Taoist thought, the one is the Tao. It's everything. By doing Shao Yi, you're starting to see the minutia in context with the all. It's kind of a cool idea. So as we're here and we're in this single whip position, the very next thing we're going to do is to come up underneath. This is called hands high. And there's just a throw down. I'm going to step toward you and I'm going to protect my elbow and do a shoulder bump, a shoulder block, and then come to something called white crane cools its wings like a big bird. I'm going to come across something that we do a lot. We step and we do brush knee and a follow step, and then do play lute, like I'm Elvis playing the guitar, another throw down, another brush knee, then I'm going to grab some air, step, this is called hit gong, I'm going to, like I'm punching down, step, deflect, intercept, step, parry, punch, reach out, wipe off, show me your manicure, look for the cavalry, and then from here, we'll do something called close. Now that's about the first 16 moves. The entire Yang style is 108. So this is just the beginning of it. But I like to teach this part to many of my students and get them really, really set in this so they can go through this and have something to practice a lot. And it'll start to affect the way they see themselves and this Shao Yi, this idea of how they fit in the world will start to mold for them. I'll tell you a short story. I have one student, he's in his 80s. He came to me years ago and he said, I'm angry. I'm angry about being old. I'm angry because people cut me off in traffic. I get road rage. And I'm angry about, I don't taste things the way I used to. He was angry about all sorts of things. I said, fine. Let's just work on Tai Chi for a while and see how this does for you. It's completely changed his life. He said, I don't get angry in traffic anymore. I'm able to accept my age. I'm able to actually enjoy the next day because I want to find out more about the energies in my body and about being able to meditate and feel the world around me. It's a wonderful moment. This can be yours. Let's do a little. So once again, if we start in Wu Qi, kind of in this normal, easy position, to add a couple of more things to it, if you can, breathe through your nose. Put the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, like you're about to say, la. And this is connecting the lower and upper palates. There's a reason for that, having to do with the meridians. Don't worry about that for the moment. But just kind of, it's something to do with your tongue. God knows we need to do something with tongues that are always up to something. So, tip of the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Soften your gaze. And by that I mean, don't look at anything. Just let your gaze be out there. You're not closing your eyes. If you close your eyes, you may get a little bit off balance. So keep your eyes open, but don't really focus on anything. Let this be a moment of relaxation. And breathe. And remember, turn down the volume on the committee. They could be chattering away, but let them chatter away on something you're not paying any attention anymore. And we can begin going from Wu Qi to Tai Chi by shifting our weight to the right foot, stepping with the left, and put it so it's going straight ahead, and then shifting to the left foot, stepping with the right. So you're now in a nice horse stance. Engage the elbows, bring in the derriere, and breathe in. Let the hands float, and then bring them in and down. And then we're simply going to go into the left so that we can set the right foot to the diagonal, say hi, grab the big beach ball, face the corner, step with your left foot and do ward off left, throwing the frisbee. Grab the small soccer ball, step and face 3 o'clock and do ward off right. Reach out to scratch the skeeter bite, turn the hands, and now we're going to stroke the bird's tail. Fingertips on the wrist and press. Kind of form a butterfly. Sit back and then push up and out. Smear the sky like you're 5 years old and come back, form a beak next to your right shoulder. Step behind yourself to 9 o'clock and single whip. Sit back and don't shoot. Come up and bring the hands up in front of you and come to the heel to hands high. Throw down. Step and shoulder block. You're facing the corner. Now face 9 o'clock and do white crane cools its wings like you're a big bird. Deflect across your body. Come up and over and come up underneath. Step, brush knee. And follow step. Reach out like you're going to shake hands and come and do play lute. Throw down. Step, brush knee. Grab some air. Step this direction. Hit gong. Step again. Deflect. Intercept. Step, parry, punch. Reach out. Wipe off. Show me your manicure. And then look for the cavalry. Cross arms. Fold in and out and down. Take a moment and breathe. And it's common when you practice a martial art to show appreciation for the moment or the people about you. Form a fist with your right hand and cover it with your left. Bow. And then step back away from the moment. And now you're back into the normal world, I guess. So I've given you the first 16 moves of Yang style Tai Chi Chuan. It works a lot on balance. You have to pay attention to where your weight is on your feet. You might notice some of the little features is that when I take a step, I will put my foot out with no weight on it, and then I'll move to that foot. Again, put the foot out with no weight on it, and then move to the foot. We do that over and over and over again. It's helping you to practice the deliberate nature of the way we take steps, rather than you doing what I call controlled falls, which is that. If I didn't put my foot there, I would fall over onto the floor. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm bringing all my weight into one axis, setting the other axis, and then moving into it. So there are many, many things like this that as you practice with a teacher, hopefully if you come to my area of the world, you can come and practice with us. This is the kind of thing that they're going to be teaching you. Additionally, I've told you a few little things about the martial aspects of what's going on. It's very difficult without having somebody else to work with for you to see it. But frankly, at this point, if you're in it for balance or health or meditation, the martial side of it is kind of gravy. It's a little extra that you don't necessarily have to deal with for the moment. And I certainly don't want you to concentrate a whole lot on the martial aspect as you're beginning to become familiar with all this. So it's the most natural thing. I hope it's something that you can do the rest of your life. This is something that, like I said, I have age 14 to the mid-90s, and they're still doing it. Can't do that with basketball. Can't do that with football. You can't do that even with golf. This is something you should be able to do the rest of your life, and it may prolong your life. It may help save you from falls, the great killer of the elderly. Anyway, so my little presentation on Tai Chi. I'd love to see you again and hope you've enjoyed this session. Goodbye.